Greetings to all participants. We are glad to join this year's Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Crop Improvement annual meeting. I am Michael Chipeta from Malawi, representing one of the centers of innovation for crop improvement. I'll be making a presentation on the Center of Innovation for Crop Improvement for East and Southern Africa. Let me begin my presentation by giving you a brief background of what led to the establishment of this center. So 25% of the population of sub-Saharan Africa, they live in the semi-arid regions where agricultural production is highly constrained due to frequent occurrence of droughts. In these areas, hunger and food importation is the order of the day. So is the case with Malawi, Mozambique, and Tanzania, which fall under this center. So this has been reported not only to ruin the economies of such countries, but also making more farmers vulnerable to elevated levels of poverty, food insecurity, and malnutrition. For example, the levels of malnutrition in the children under the age of 5 in these countries are as follows, right? Tanzania, 30%, in Mozambique, 50%, and Malawi, 47%. As this is not enough, it is further projected that the number and proportion of malnourished children in the sub-Saharan Africa will increase in the next decade. So the question is, as scientists, what is it that we're doing to help to avert this situation? So we reoriented our breeding programs to focus on crops with inherent drought tolerance and high nutritional content. In this case, we are focusing on cowpea as one of the ways to address this situation. So this is one of the reasons that led to the establishment of this center when the call for applications came up. So what is this center? It is a partnership of national agricultural research systems from 3 countries. It is led by the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources in Malawi, but also in partnership with the Department of Agricultural Research Services under the Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation. And then there's Mozambique, and also there's Tanzania Agricultural Research Institute. So in terms of the activities, basically, is focusing on 2 broad activities, that is variety development and training. So in terms of the variety development, we're focusing on cowpea, and the training we're focusing on postgraduate training at master's as well as PhD level. So in terms of the team that is constituting this center, it constitutes of a multidisciplinary team constituting of the breeders, gender specialists, social economists, nutrition people, and crop protection people. So this is how the center is made up, and also what it is covering in terms of activities as well as the countries that are involved in this center. So in terms of the objectives, the main objective of this center is to improve cowpea productivity. How? Through the development of cowpea varieties that have got traits that are preferred by the consumers, but they're also driven by the market, but they also address the issues of the youth, gender, and also resilient traits. So the whole idea is to enhance food, income, and nutrition security of smallholder farmers in these 3 countries. Specific objectives. Basically, there are 4 specific objectives under this center. The first one is to conduct a comprehensive gender-sensitive value chain analysis in order to understand specific gender dynamics in the cowpea value chain. Secondly, to characterize the phenotypic and genomic diversity of the cowpea germplasm to identify traits that are preferred by the farmers as well as the consumers, and also that driven by the market demand, and they address the issues of the youth, gender, as well as resilience. Third is to develop and select more productive and nutritious cowpea lines for resilient cropping systems of smallholder farmers. So in terms of the productivity, we're talking of the issues of yield, issues of pest and disease resistance, issues of drought tolerance, and also issues of parasitic weed tolerance, such as the Arectra vulgare, which is quite common in these three countries. Last but not least, is to build and strengthen the capacity of the breeding programs of these three countries in terms of the training as well as infrastructure development. I want to share with you some of the reflections on the co-creation process. So this was one of the stages during the submission of the proposal to the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for crop improvement. So the submission, actually there was a call for applications, and during that phase there was a webinar session focusing on the questions as well as responding to the questions that potential applicants had. After that, we expressed our interest and we submitted the letter of intent to the Innovation Lab. Fortunately, our intent was successful and we were advised to proceed into the next stage, that is developing a full proposal. So our letter of intent went under the title of Cowpea Improvement for Yield, Disease Resistance, Adaptation and Nutrition Security in Malawi, Mozambique, and Tanzania. So during the submission or during the preparation of the full proposal, we engaged with the different thematic areas in the core. So it had 5 thematic areas. Priority setting, trait discovery, genomics, breeding informatics, and phenomics. In our case, we managed to engage with the 3 thematic areas, that is priority setting, trait discovery, and genomics. So the co-creation process is an important tool that helps applicants to prepare their proposals with the full understanding of the expectations of the core. So I would liken it to an open book exam where students are allowed to go into an exam room with their study notes. So they will be responding their questions in reference to the study notes that they have. So in our case, the co-creation process enabled us to understand the expectations of the core. And at the end of it, we understood the proposal framework. And this engagement enabled us to critically review the proposal or the objectives of the proposal or the core or the thematic areas of the core. And we were able to engage with the different theme leaders. So we prepared our proposal with an informed mind, knowing what is expected by the Innovation Lab. So by the end of the day, we prepared our proposal and we submitted it. So fortunately, it was successful. And here we are now making this presentation to this annual meeting. So what are the plans for the year? So basically, our plans have been aligned with the objectives or the proposal or the project or the center. So under the first objective of conducting a gender-sensitive cowpea value chain analysis, basically the main activity under this objective is to map the whole cowpea value chain in order to understand as well as identify and at the end prioritize the traits that are preferred by different cowpea value chain actors, let's say farmers, consumers, processors, distributors, traders. What is it that they want to see in a variety so that by the end of it, they should be able to use that variety so that their productivity can improve as well as increase. So we'll be having surveys but also we'll be having focus group discussions and also key informal interviews to solicit their views on various attributes that they would want to see in a cowpea variety. So for the second objective, there are also a number of activities. So the first activity is basically to collect additional germplasm. We realize that in our collection, we don't have enough germplasm. So we want to collect additional germplasm. And after collecting the additional germplasm, and also together with some of the collections that we have, especially the breeding lines in our collections, we would want to run regional trials so that we phenotype these. After phenotyping, we're going to genotype the germplasm. And the whole idea is that we want to identify key founder lines of our breeding program. So we will resequence the key founder lines that will be identified through the phenotyping as well as the genotyping activities. And then we also have to profile the nutritional status of the different varieties that we have, including the collections that we're going to make, so that we know in terms of the nutritional status, so that we are also including the varieties that we know that they have got a good nutritional status. For the third objective, basically, we will be generating crosses in the first year. After identifying the parental lines in the previous objective, we will use those parental lines to generate the crosses. Then the last objective is the capacity building. In here, we also have got a number of activities that have been lined up in the year. So we will have training on deployment and implementation of the breeding management system in Malawi, and this is expected to be done online in light of the COVID-19 issues. But also we'll have a training on gender responsive breeding, then a training on genomics enabled breeding and bioinformatics. And also we will recruit and train postgraduate students as well as project personnel so that they are familiar with the project implementation framework. So what are the immediate needs? The audience might wish to know that in Malawi and Mozambique, the rainy season is on. So these activities, they need to be on the ground running. For example, germplasm correction. We would have done this activity already. Putting up some of the structures like greenhouses that will be used for making crosses. Gender sensitive value chain analysis. We need this information to feed into the subsequent objectives of the project. So in short, we need the resources to hit the ground running, as I've already indicated that we are already in the rainy season. So we needed these resources as soon as yesterday. So what do we expect to achieve by the end of the year or the first year? And basically by the end of the year, we expect that key traits that are gender, youth, and resilient inclusive will have been identified. And also traits for various cowpea value chain actors will have been identified and prioritized in the variety development. And also additional cowpea germplasm will have been collected and phenotyped as well as genotyped. And by the end of the year, after these activities, a molecular variation or a description of the molecular variation that exists within the correction completed. And at least 20 to 30 parental lines will have been identified and we will have been initiated the process for the second year. And ultimately, we will have recruited 4 postgraduate students and by the end of the year, they will have completed the first year of study. So basically, this is what this center is all about. Let me take this opportunity to thank the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for crop improvement for giving us this challenge and also for trusting us. We hope that with their guidance, which they have shown from the beginning up to now, we will achieve the objectives of this center. Thank you all. Thank you to Feed the Future Innovation Lab for crop improvement.
Thank you so much, Michael Chipeta, for your presentation. I'm going to open it up for questions from the audience. While we are waiting on that, I have a quick question. So for a very short, I'm going to piggyback on Dennis' question actually. So for a very short duration project, what are the mechanisms for work output sustainability in Malawi once the project phases out, you know, and in terms of technologies adoption? This question is from Michael.
Michael, we can't hear you.
All right, while we are waiting for Michael to comment, Miguel, you can go ahead and ask your questions so you can answer those questions at the same time, if that is okay.
Yes, Michael, thank you for the presentation. I have a question regarding the point that you made about investigating different users to understand preferences. And I'm curious to see what are the main attributes that you think are important in the case of cowpeas, and if these are relevant for bringing cowpeas to markets or also for consumption in the households or both. Thank you, and thank you for the presentation.
We're not hearing you. If you could choose an audio source.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we now hear you. Good, good, good.
All right, thank you. So let me start with the first question on the sustainability of the project after phasing out all the funding. Actually, we're looking at 4 issues that will help us to sustain this project. One, through this project, we're building the capacity of the institution. We believe that through this funding, we'll have some infrastructure that we'll be able to use after the phasing out of this project. For example, we'll have the screen houses, which after the phasing out of the project, we'll be able to use to generate the crosses and also screening out some of the materials. So even if the project is phased out, still we'll have got structures on the ground that we will be using to drive our research. But also capacity building through this project. We want to build the capacity of the breeders and other project team members. We feel that after the project, these people, they will have the skills. We will have the skills, and these skills will be continued or will be continued to be used in the project, even if the project is phased out. But also building partnerships with other institutions.
Michael, you're a bit choppy. Can you, Michael?
The germplasm.
Can you turn off your video? So, because I think you're bandwidth constrained, turn on your video and just use audio. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, so I was explaining on the issues of sustainability of the project. So maybe let me go to the second question. If I have addressed the first question. So the first question, the second question by Miguel is on the preferred traits that we are targeting. What are these preferred traits? Actually, from our own perspective, there are a number of traits like grain yield, pest and disease resistance, but also grain quality traits like color of the grain and also the size of the grain. But for us now to prioritize these traits, we need to do a value chain analysis to see which of these traits are really preferred by different stakeholders in the cowpea value chain. Because we don't want to prioritize the traits that when we develop a variety, the farmers or other users of the cowpeas, they will not be able to use that variety. So definitely, we will be prioritizing those traits based on the outcome that we get from the value chain analysis. Have I addressed your question, Miguel?
Yes, thank you, Michael.
Welcome.
Thank you, Michael, for the presentation and for responding to that question. We have a question from Dio. Dio, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Thank you.
Michael, thank you for the very nice presentation. And in your presentation, you talk about you wanted to increase the nutritional security. And I am just wondering what type of target traits and in your breeding program you have for nutritional traits and then breeding targets for it. And if I can collaborate with you, I'm very happy to collaborate because I work on the same kind of area of the legume crops. Thank you. This is Dil.
Thank you for that important question. Actually, the nutrients of interest are micronutrients apart from the major nutrients like proteins and vitamins, but we also want to bring in the micronutrients such as iron and zinc. We feel that these are quite important because most of the food that the farmers or people consume, they don't have much of these micronutrients. So cowpea is one of the food crops that is consumed by many people. So if we include these micronutrients, we feel we can be able to achieve some of the nutritional issues, such as the nutrition security. So basically there are two micronutrients.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Looks like we do not have anybody's hand raised and we don't have any more questions from the chat room. We will move forward with the next presentation, which is from